Hello guys, once again, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is the African Caribbean Uncovers. Well, I have to appreciate you all for choosing to click onto this video. This is my first video on this channel. And in this channel, we will be uncovering and talking of stories that is, or rather what's happening in Africa and in the Caribbean. I appeal for you for your love and support throughout this journey. I want you to stick with me. Make sure you like my video, subscribe to my channel, share, and also comment. That ensures that my video will be pushed to a wider audience, and that only comes if you find my contents worth a subscribe, a like, and a comment. So in today's video, I want us to watch this video from Captain Ibrahim Traore. Captain Ibrahim Traore is the current president of Burkina Faso. Now, Burkina Faso, they was a country, or rather it is a country that has had a lot of challenges because we know of their assassination of their last previous president that led to Captain Ibrahim Traore taking over. Now, Captain Ibrahim Traore has been praised for his great major work that he is doing for the people of his country. Now, this guy is a guy that is totally loved by everybody in his country to a point whereby everybody, or rather the people of his country, went on a strike because he once stated that he is going to step down as the president. So please watch this video up to the end and please consider subscribing to my channel. Like also the video, comment and share. So let's dive into this video.
If you want to break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts from there. I think the example of Chad in any case is tangible. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we don't denounce the agreements, just saying that the soi-disant démocrates,
Whether you're a Democrat or not, how can you impose democracy by killing millions of people? It's a dictatorship, not democracy. You can't impose it. Those who call themselves Democrats have seen scenes where people were prevented from joining assemblies. We've seen scenes where forces landed in assemblies to force deputies to take texts. We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Persians. If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy. And when you see incompetence, they don't seek to know what the real meaning of the word democracy is. They cling to the definition given to them by imperialism and start talking about democracy without really knowing the basics. That's incompetence. You have to know, look at the world to redefine democracy as we want it in Africa. Incompetence hides behind freedom. Remember, there is no individual freedom. It's a fact. Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome all the young people from the 13 regions who are in the room and those who have not been able to access the room. To all the young people from Africa, to accompany the youth, welcome to the land of integral men. I would like to pay a vibrant tribute to our strong security and defense forces who fight day and night for Burkina Faso to be and remain beautiful. I would like us to take a minute to pray for those who are on the ground and also for the rest of the souls of those who have fallen for our country. Thank you. Thank you. Let us give thanks to God for allowing us to be here today to celebrate the International Youth Day in good health. I say this very often because human beings often forget God when they have no problem, when they are in happiness. But when worries come, this is when we remember God. Give thanks every day for the breath of life and for health. Youth from Burkina Faso, youth from Africa, youth, this phase of life where we have enough strength, enough energy, like the paraphrase, the slammer that has just passed. Youth is the time when we have spent enough time. We must take advantage of the time we have been given. Use the energy necessary to reach our goals, to change the world, to change our world, to change the world of others positively. Children want to grow up to be young. Older people want to grow up to be young. Everyone wants to be young. Youth is a blessing. So take advantage of youth to do useful work. This is why when I see in the chosen theme, the first two words that come to mind, integration, security. Africa faces many challenges, and we must ask ourselves questions. Is youth an asset or a handicap for the development of nations? The answer is simple and unequivocal, and you know it. Developed countries mostly have an aging population, and currently many countries have launched programs to rejuvenate their populations. Africa has this chance to have a very young population. But why is Africa not developed? We must therefore look at the question of why Africa has a young population and why it is not developed, and why developed countries seek to rejuvenate their populations. We must transform our youth into a real asset and engine of development for our continent. To do this, we need integration. We need security and development. We need to unite. You will hear about the African Union. Yes, it exists, but what is the effect of the African Union? We cannot talk about integration and not talk about the African Union, because it is this organization that should unite us, create real integration. But we regret to see this war that persists on the African continent, that kills millions of young people, and that this organization, which has the head of state provided with an army, cannot organize itself to support certain countries. The Union is not just a word, the Union is a symbol. And we young people should learn from this situation to unite us to make integration a reality. I was unpleasantly surprised when Ethiopia, which is the seat of the African Union, experienced a conflict, and when the Prime Minister announced to close the university in Addis Ababa to face the threat, I did not see the action of the African Union to protect this seat. Western states, for the most part, saw Addis Ababa fall, fold their backpacks, and leave.
L'Éthiopie s'est battue, a trouvé une solution
Ethiopia
interne.
fought, found an internal solution, and lives more or less in peace today.
Les enfants du Congo meurent.
The children of Congo have been dying for years.
Plusieurs autres conflits, tels au Soudan.
Several other conflicts, such as in Sudan, exist on the continent.
Nous aurions aimé voir l'Union africaine générer
We
les
would have
forces
liked to see the African Union generate the strength and all the strategies necessary to support its states so that they can find peace.
Nous ne viendrons même pas parler de nous ici au Sahel.
We will not even talk about us here in the
Depuis
Sahel.
près de 10 ans,
For nearly 10 years, the Sahel has been the scene of international terrorism.
mais nous ne voyons aucun soutien.
But we see no support from these organizations to find a solution to this problem.
Pire, il y a quelques jours de cela, un pays
Worse, a few
étranger
days
à
ago, a foreign country in Africa openly announced that it had supported and participated
avoir soutenu et participé à une attaque lâche
in a
terroriste
cowardly,
barbare
terrorist, and barbaric attack against the forces of our confederation.
L'Union africaine n'a pipé aucun mot pour condamner.
The African Union did not say a word to condemn this interference.
L'Union africaine n'a
The
pipé
African
aucun
Union
mot
did
pour
not say a
condamner
word to
cette
condemn this
ingérence
interference
extérieure à la
of a foreign state in Africa in the internal affairs of our
affaires
states.
de nos États. Et ce coup de gueule, je souhaiterais qu'ils
I would like them to hear this shout
qu'ils sortent donc de leur silence
and get out of their silence and take action so that the youth can believe in the African Union.
Il nous faut nous unir. Il nous faut nous unir. Et
We
la
must
seule manière de
unite.
s'unir,
The only way to
c'est de
unite is to talk to each
se
other,
comprendre,
to understand each other, and to be able to
pouvoir
establish the
asseoir
basis of this unity.
unité-là. Et jeunes, laissez-moi vous dire que pour s'unir,
Young people, let me tell you that to unite, there are three words, three big screws that we must ban from our behavior and our lives.
je parle de la lâcheté, la traîtrise,
I am talking about cowardice, treachery, and incompetence.
il faut bannir,
We must ban these three words from
bannir
our
ces
way of
trois
life.
mots de notre mode de vie.
I am going
Je
to
vais
explain
vous
why.
expliquer pourquoi. La lâcheté recouvre beaucoup de vices.
Cowardice covers many
Lâche
screws.
a toujours peur. Et lorsqu'on a peur,
A coward is always afraid. And when we are afraid, we become slaves. We bend. We lick our boots.
nos ancêtres n'ont
Our
pas été lâches.
ancestors were not cowardly.
Et si nous sommes lâches, nos enfants vont nous...
And if we are cowardly, our children will ask us
Imaginez qu'au
questions.
Burkina, nous refusions de nous battre. Et nous acceptons de nous...
Imagine that in Burkina Faso, we refuse to fight and we accept to submit, to live in
Se
slavery.
poseront des questions. Nos parents ont-ils été des lâches pour nous laisser...
Tomorrow, our children will grow up and they will ask themselves questions. Have our parents been cowardly to leave us in slavery? Whether we are alive or dead, we will feel it.
A peur. Et les impérialistes ont compris, ils essaient de faire
Cowardice
peur
is afraid, and the imperialists have understood that they are trying to scare the leaders so that they become cowards.
tous les autres vices peuvent naître. On fait tout.
Because when you are a coward, all the other screws can be born.
Ils viennent
We do everything so that we are afraid.
nous menacent.
They come to our palaces, they threaten us directly or with veiled
Bien
threats.
sûr, nous répondons comme il le faut.
Of course, we respond as it is necessary. They try to make us understand. They take examples every time.
Ils prennent chaque fois des exemples. Ils nous diront, vous
They tell
savez,
us, you know,
Thomas Sankara a essayé de faire comme ça, mais il
Thomas
est-
Sankara
il est
tried to
mort.
do this, but he is
Le
dead.
président haïtien, il a essayé de faire comme ça, il est où? Il est mort.
President Haitian tried to do this, but he is dead.
Comme ça, il est où? Il est mort. Voilà des propos qu'on nous tient de manière...
Gaddafi tried to do this, but he is dead. These are words that we take in a veiled way to scare us.
Nous voyons aussi souvent certains jeunes
And we often see some young people trying to take our path in a different way. We can hear them say, such and such person ruled like this, he is in his country.
a régné ainsi, il a la CPI. Telle personne a régné
Such
ainsi,
and
il a-
such person ruled like
Ça pour
this,
essayer de
he
nous
is in
faire
prison.
peur, pour qu'on devienne des lâches. Mais je pense qu'ils n'ont pas compris quelque chose.
All this to try to scare us so that we become cowards.
nous vaincrons. Ce n'est pas qu'une phrase.
But I think they didn't understand one thing. When we say country or death, we
Ce n'est pas
win.
qu'une phrase, ça a tout son sens.
It's not just a sentence. It's not just a sentence. It all makes sense. We are not afraid and we will never be afraid.
Ils ont fait peur, sûrement, à beaucoup de chefs d'État africains.
They probably scared a lot of African heads of state. They probably scared a lot of African heads of state.
Lorsqu'on a l'occasion d'être dans certaines situations à l'extérieur,
You see, often when we express ourselves or when we have the opportunity to be in certain situations abroad,
prendre soin de notre jeunesse pour pouvoir amorcer notre
we
développement.
often say something to call on African heads of state to wake up and take care of our youth so that we can start our real development. So that we can start our real development.
Publiquement, à nos propos,
We are often misunderstood. Some have publicly opposed us. Some have publicly opposed us because they feel indexed. But I can assure you, youth, that when we find ourselves in the corridors,
ces mêmes chefs d'État nous disent vous êtes sur la bonne voie, c'est ce qu'il faut faire pour que l'Afrique.
these same heads of state tell us that we are on the right track and that this is what needs to be done so that Africa can rise again.
Nous leur posons des questions à savoir pourquoi vous ne
So
faites
we
pas
ask
comme
them
nous,
questions
pourquoi vous
like,
nous accompagnez
why don't
pas?
you do like us?
Certains
Why
nous
don't you
disent qu'ils ont
support
des
us?
alliés, certains nous disent qu'ils ne peuvent pas. Chers aînés,
Some tell us that they have the means and some tell us that they can't.
Je souhaiterais dire que les peuples africains sont les peuples les plus pacifiques.
Dear elders, African heads of state, at the end of this podium, I would like to say that African peoples are the most peaceful, that African peoples are the most peaceful. When you recognize a wrong, you have to tell the people. When you recognize a wrong, you have to tell the people. We are not afraid to come out and tell the people we are sorry, we have been compromised, we have been mistreated, we have been compromised by several things, and we ask for forgiveness, and we come back on the right path and to start working really for the independence of our states and our emancipation.
Nous serons lâches.
And I think it is possible. If we remain in this posture of fear, we will be cowardly and history will judge us.
Nous sommes en train d'écrire l'histoire.
Our children will ask questions. Our grandchildren will ask
Si nos
questions.
ancêtres avaient été lâches, nous ne serions pas là.
We are writing history. There is no place for cowardice. If our ancestors had been cowardly, we would not be here. Do you remember? I will give you an example of the people of Bamileke and Bassa. I want to talk about the Cameroonians, the union of the population of Cameroon, which since the 1950s has started a relentless fight against the Poles, but they have been massacred. The French colonial armies, in turn, have dispatched infantry battalions, tanks, helicopters, have annihilated anti-village. The most inhuman tortures have taken place during this period. You can do research on what they called the cart or the Bakasima.
Des centaines de milliers de populations ont été
Hundreds of
décimées
thousands of people have been decimated in Africa
osé demander aux colons de quitter leur terre.
because they dared to ask their settlers to leave their land.
Il y a une guerre civile qui a duré plusieurs années.
A civil war that lasted several years.
Des gens ont osé, ont affronté à main nue.
That is to say that people dared to face the imperialists with their bare hands so that we could be here.
Que nous ne puissions pas affronter les impérialistes pour que nous.
There is no reason why we cannot face the imperialists so that our future generations can live.
Il y a beaucoup d'exemples à travers l'Afrique. d'hommes
There are many examples throughout Africa of brave men who refused to be cowardly, who fought, who faced.
Soyons dignes de ces gens. Nous sommes leurs descendants.
Well, let us be worthy of these people. We are their descendants, and let us be worthy of them.
Ne soyons pas lâches.
A coward cannot be
Jeunesse
worthy.
africaine. Parce qu'un lâche
Let us not be cowards, young Africans, because a coward is always a traitor.
ils nous feront, ils
And it
essayeront
goes
de-
hand in
ils
hand.
essaieront de nous faire
They will
peur.
try to frighten us so that we
Que nous
become
serons
cowards.
lâches. Et si nous sommes lâches, nous allons trahir.
And if we are cowards, we will betray. We must ban the treachery of our habits.
Des Africains ont été traîtres pour que la traite négrière.
Africans have been traitors so that the slave trade succeeds in Africa. It is because Africans have been traitors that colonization has been able to sustain in Africa. Let us question history.
Lumumba,
We will see. Lumumba, Patrice Lumumba, was betrayed because he dared to hold his head. And these same beautiful televisions came to the Congo for a few bids extended to individuals in the Congo for an interview to please their population. And you were able to follow that. Lumumba bothered us. He is dead. We are happy. It is treachery. Many other heroes have fallen so that we are here today. And it is a technique of imperialism to frighten others by taking action to really create terror. It has not started today. I will give you the example of a warrior who fought, Victor Biakaboda.
Lisez, vous comprendrez. Il est issu d'une famille de chefs, pas de la chefferie.
Read it and you will understand.
Il est un enfant.
He came from a family of chiefs.
Il a fait ses études au Sénégal, je crois.
No chiefdom given by the colonizer. He was a worthy child. He studied in Senegal, I believe. He became a doctor in Guinea. And when the RDA was created, he went to the Ivory Coast region to fight against imperialists, against invaders, against the colonizer. He tried to organize the Ivorian society. Everywhere, people began to speak up. There was a general in his time, Pichu, who massacred the Ivorian population so that this spirit of freedom could never germinate. He continued his fight alongside Fewrci Lix Ufeboigny. They fought. But the most violent was Victor Biakaboda. He represented a threat to the imperialists. What did he do? In addition to massacring the people who demonstrated, one night they killed him in an atrocious way next to Bois-Flancy. A few hours later, when the people of Dimbakro heard the murder, they marched, they demonstrated. They were massacred by the colonial army. History was killed. The facts are there. After his death, which scared FOC Lix Ufeboigny, they called him and told him, if you continue the fight, you will meet the same fate. He was afraid and he joined imperialism. He was appointed minister in France and later he came to take the reins of the Ivorian Accord. They used him to eliminate many other people who dared to raise their voices. I think Thomas Sankara is a good example. If you are afraid, you will be cowardly and you will be a traitor. Never be afraid. The fight must continue. There are many other examples around the world. And there is this phenomenon that they have also used for a long time and that they continue to use. You see, some individuals, for example, have found themselves in other countries and created a so-called parallel government to the Malian government. You have heard this story. It is a technique that has existed for a long time. I will give you the example of Ahmed Chalabi, Iraq. This math teacher, who was even in the Iraqi government, was recaptured by the imperialists, and he formed this semblance of parallel government in Iraq, in the United States. And he was used to be the sheep of sacrifice, because it was to him that it was said that Saddam Hussein was developing weapons of mass destruction, and he did it. They used him, and this Talibi was used to kill millions of children in Iraq and destroy Iraq. And do you know what was the fate of Chalabi? One evening after an interview, he said that he knew that the CIA was on his back. A few hours later, he was found dead in his bed, dead of a heart attack. If you betray, you will have macabre endings. That's how it is. Imperialism has no friends. Imperialism uses you. And when it finishes using you, it does what it wants with you. Follow my gaze. You understand what I'm talking about. It has always been like this. The third vice that I invite you to leave is incompetence. I'm coming back to the word of the Islamist who walked on my tongue. Incompetence. You understand what I'm talking about. Incompetence is a very dangerous phenomenon that they use to destroy African society. In our administrations, there is a lot of incompetence. Let's recognize it. Incompetence have a lot of space next to imperialism. Because incompetence can take over the development of a country. Incompetence can lead you to doubt yourself. Incompetents love ease. Incompetents love everything for themselves. Incompetents don't like those who are competent. They don't like those who innovate, those who seek. Incompetents are dangerous. When you are enlightened, incompetents don't like you. When you want to innovate, incompetents don't like you. Incompetents only recognize those who are competent, and they will fight him until his last breath. Because he is afraid of those who are competent. Seek knowledge. Seek knowledge and work. Work hard to be competent. Ban incompetence. Because through distractions that we want to make us adopt, we become incompetent. I'll give you an example. Social networks are the places where information is published today. People are informed through the internet. A young man who publishes an article on his farm, or an agricultural project or a scientific project may not have 1,000 views. But a young man who publishes on futility has millions of views. As the young slammer said, we want to waste your time on futility. Be aware. Let's focus on work and seek knowledge. Let's seek competence. It's good to be distracted, but we must work first before being distracted. Seek knowledge, otherwise you'll waste your time doing nothing.
Cherchez la connaissance, sinon vous perdrez du temps à ne rien faire.
Youth is the time when you must use your time wisely.
Il faut exploiter son temps à bon escient. Les impérialistes le savent.
The imperialists know this.
Ils vont multiplier tout ce qui est événement de distraction. Ils vont multiplier tout ce qui est.
That's why they multiply all events of distraction.
Pour que vous soyez des incompétents.
They multiply all events that can distract you from work so that you become incompetent. When you fall asleep, you choose the incompetent to lead the important structures. You have no choice but to fold. Let's not be incompetent. Let's seek knowledge.
Les incompétents se cachent souvent derrière des mots.
Incompetents often hide behind words. They use the terms democracy and freedom without realizing what they mean. Democracy is a state of mind as much as youth is a state of mind. Whether you're a Democrat or not, how can you impose democracy by killing millions of people? It's a dictatorship, not democracy. You can't impose it.
Ceux-là qui se disent démocrates, mais regardez,
Those who call themselves Democrats have seen scenes where people were prevented from joining assemblies. We've seen scenes where forces landed in assemblies to force deputies to take texts. We've seen more terrible scenes where people kill their demonstrators. But they call themselves Democrats, and we're called Persians. If that's democracy, I repeat, we don't want this democracy. And when you see incompetence, they don't seek to know what the real meaning of the word democracy is. They cling to the definition given to them by imperialism and start talking about democracy without really knowing the basics. That's incompetence. You have to know, look at the world to redefine democracy as we want it in Africa. Incompetence hides behind freedom. Remember, there is no individual freedom. It's a fact. Do you really think everyone is free? Freedom is collective. As long as we live in a society with rules, freedom is collective. Because if you don't respect the rules, you can't live in society. If you're free to speak as you please, the other is free to answer as he pleases. That would be disorder. If you're free to walk the streets and pass traffic lights as you please, the other is free to pass by and hit you. You understand that if individual freedom takes over, we are in a society of disorder. That's why there are rules in society. And everyone has to respect the rules. That's why we're talking about collective freedom. Some people have the right to speak about their individual freedom, but they don't care about others. I think that's also part of incompetence. Because they don't try to understand. They make up the rights given by the states to serve and do everything for themselves, neglecting the freedom of others. No, freedom is collective. Before we act, we think about the freedom of others, and we shouldn't transcend the freedom of others. So we need to have a reserve. And once we have a reserve, individual freedom doesn't exist. Freedom is collective, and we need to have this culture of collective freedom. So let's seek knowledge, let's read, let's interrogate history. Don't read the history they wrote in their favor. Seek knowledge through several sources, and you will understand in history who fought for Africa, how we must fight to continue this struggle of our ancestors. And I won't finish my words without making a statement about communication. Because, as I said, it's the fatal weapon of imperialism. And you young people, you must do everything to distinguish the true from the false. We will continue to dismantle the lies of imperialist media that always try to create problems in Africa. Because these media, through their mouths, can make you a king tomorrow. Through their mouths, they can make you leave your position as king and make you a poor slave tomorrow. Pay attention. I was following a program, unfortunately not long ago, in Burkina Faso, where a young journalist released a sentence that left me a little perplexed. He was talking about North Korea, and the journalist said, "But he is starving in North Korea." Has he taken care of going to North Korea to investigate to see if he is really starving? Since imperialist media have sold North Korea is more developed than many European countries. And because these media tell us that North Korea is a dictatorship, people are starving, they are poor, they have nothing, we take it here. But North Korea is a nuclear power. How did they do it? Let's pay attention to communication. We must not blindly follow these lying media that only try to divide Africa. It is logical. They fight for the interests of their people. And the interest of their people is that Africa is divided. So, young people of Burkina Faso, young people of Africa, we must unite. We must ban cowardice. We must ban incompetence. We must ban treachery and all the risks in our society. We have the opportunity to speak. We thank God for these opportunities that we have each time to speak, to raise awareness. And I invite you to spread the word, to get to work so that the Africa that we want, self-sufficient in terms of food, is a reality. So that the Africa that we want for harmonious development is a reality. Let me finish because I return to your theme. There is no peace and security without development. The two go hand in hand. If there is no development, there is no security. Because if there is no development, the youth will inevitably find themselves in the vice and there will be no security. If there is no security, there is no development. So the two must go hand in hand. Let's integrate this in our fights so that we can fight and develop. Let's go towards production. Let's produce enough. Let's transform our raw materials so that they are beneficial for our populations and in terms of exportation. I wish you a very good day of reflection on the chosen theme and also on the essential role of youth in this fight. Good luck to all. May God make sure that all those who have made the trip return home in good health and that we can meet again when we wish it by the grace of God. La patrie ou la mort. Thank you.
If you want to break with these imperialist forces, it's simple. We denounce the agreements. Everything starts from there. I think the example of Chad in any case is tangible. They started by denouncing the agreements. Otherwise, if we don't denounce the agreements, just saying that the bases leave, we haven't done anything. Because the problem lies in the colonial agreements, the defenses that have been signed since independence. The most dangerous is not the one you see in the bases. The most dangerous are the military advisors. Military advisors exist in all these countries. They existed in Burkina as well until the end of 2022. Until we took responsibility. And who are these military advisors? They are the ones who are supposed to implement France's policy. Here, they must work to make our armies very weak so that France can always have the argument. To exist here. Under their influence, they had succeeded. Our sentinels were therefore standing guard with sticks. That's what France wants from our armies. When we reach this stage, we have no choice but to want them to come and settle. But the Burkinabe army managed to get rid of the military advisors. Unfortunately, I think that in 2019, after Operation Otapono, where the French saw that the Burkinabe army still had the capacity to respond to terrorists, they called the chiefs of staff in France. They instructed him to reintegrate the military advisors throughout the structure. Well, they did not agree. But upon returning to the country, the politicians instructed him to accept the military advisors. And that's when the military advisors returned to the Burkinabe army in 2019. With all the consequences we know, the army was on the verge of disappearing in the years 2020, 2021. And indeed, this is the time when many soldiers had to desert because there was no longer any hope. We were in the process of collapsing. That's a bit how they work at the General Staff headquarters. In all army headquarters, in the schools, they are the ones who are supposed to dictate the policy of our army. They are the ones who tell us when to recruit, how to recruit, and what to do with them. They are in the schools to tell us how to train them, and so on. As long as these military advisors are there, you are not independent. Your army will just have the appearance of an army that is there to perform parades, a circus. But when war comes, you will realize that a parade is one thing, but war is another thing. You have to break the agreements. It's the only way to have an independent army and build strength. But many people do not understand this, perhaps. And even with these agreements, France selects from our states officer cadets to go and train them. It's through these same agreements. But in reality, these officers who go to train, for the most part for France, they come to serve the French state in their country. They do not come to serve our countries. They train them so that they come to serve the interests of the French state. I can provide evidence of this. When we revolted, many officers in Burkina who were trained in France were immediately contacted to tell them that it was time to take action because you were trained for this, to serve France's interests. Most of these officers reported back to us. We took note and we continued to monitor. When an officer trained in France returns to his country and unfortunately dies, either by accident or on the battlefield. In France, there is a night of tribute to the fallen in the army, as there is everywhere else. During the night of tribute to the fallen, the name of the officer in question is mentioned, and it is said, died for France. They do not train him to serve his country, they train him to serve their state. And in many African states, there are plenty of such officers.